So welcome to the April 14th Edmonton Pass, now Azure Data Groups meeting. Today we have Wilson talking about Databricks, and we're broadcasting from the lovely Microsoft offices in downtown Edmonton. Without any further ado, I give Wilson to you.
Thank you for everyone for coming to getting started with Databricks. This is our first meeting here in the Microsoft Edmonton office. And thank you for Lynn to sponsor us here for that. Much appreciate that for hosting us. So in these sessions, we'll get started with Databricks, and we'll dive quickly in a bit of bio about myself, and then we'll jump into the topic for today. Hi everyone, my name is Wilson Mock. I'm a senior data architect consultant. I've been working in the data and AI field for over 10 years. Before that, I was also a software developer for about 10 years before that. Currently, I'm at SMS Equipment as a data architect and a technical lead there. So previously, I worked at Avalon as the manager of data engineering, a lead data architect at CAE, as well as a lead AI architect at Air Canada. So I'm a Microsoft MVP for the data platform, as well as the Databricks Solution Architect Champion. Recently also become their certified trainer, so I'm helping them train various different company onboarding into the Databricks ecospace as well. For this session, it's an introduction section, so we're going to focus on the introducing Databricks, what it can do, how does it serve you or your colleagues in terms of completing your analysis and objectives. We'll go over a little bit of a high-level technology overview. We won't have time to go in depth into the technologies, but that can definitely be follow-up sessions that we can have. Otherwise, we have going to talk a little bit about annotating our metadata with our data assets. So a little bit Unity catalog, you've heard of that before, for data management. And then we'll round out the session here with a demo on a Genie that Databricks has, which helps you analyze and talk to your data instead of trying to write SQL queries. Okay. So for the audience here and as well as online, it's great if you have some SQL experience. If you don't worry. It's pretty, it's an introductory sessions, and it's great if you have some Databricks experience as well, but it's not required here. Okay. All the code you will see at the end during the presentation will be available in my GitHub repository. The link will be available at the end of the presentations. So in Databricks, everything starts with the unified data and governance. So that allows us the ability to manage our data as well as manage our access to our data. So we want all of the different types of users to be able to access the same data and have the same security and data quality around that. And what that really means is all of the user access through, regardless what they do as a data analyst or data scientist, and as well as a data engineer, all of their compute is going through the data intelligence engine. And in that engine, it provides the core compute services for you to access the data and ensure that you are accessing those, you have the correct credentials to access those data as well. So as you can see, starting on the left, we have the data analysts. So their focus is more on the business intelligence, try to generate reports and gather quick insights for the business areas. So their main interaction is focusing on the data warehouse itself, and as well as building reports in business intelligence, like I mentioned. And then the next one we have is the data scientists, and their role is to utilize AI and machine learning to create predictions and insights for the future. Finally, we have the data engineer, and their goal is to bring data from different sources, compile them into your unified data layer, and then making those data available for the scientists as well as the analysts. Part of their job is also reliability, to make sure that all the pipeline that they build, regardless if it's real time or batch, can be run in a scalable and timely fashion. We'll dive into each of the role a little more before we talk about the technology. So the data engineer focuses on building data pipelines that deliver fresh and actionable data for the business. So that means we will pull data out of different systems like databases, APIs, or even flat files. A lot of our business users still like our Excel or spreadsheet that we use regularly. And then we will pull them into the Databricks ecosystem, which will go through what they call the medallion architecture. So you will see the raw data, which is kind of the copy of the source. We call them the bronze data. We will clean them up by applying various different data quality and integrity checks on them to make sure the data is valid and accurate before we will combine them into consolidated data set so that, for example, the data analyst can report on. At times, data scientists might choose to use the clean data as well. So that's why we go through some of the different steps there for the data engineering task. This process to run either on a schedule, like on the orchestration every 2 hours, or on a real-time basis. So in that case, will be whenever data comes in or every 15 minutes, which is more of a near real-time scenarios. So the data scientists focus on more around running experiments, tracking the experiments, and deploying the model. Data engineer prepare the data the best we could, that's clean. But the data scientists might need to do other further refinement to ensure that the data set that they need is built out correctly. What they call feature engineering, essentially. So those features that they identify are the ones that are significant that would impact how the model will react to the change of data. And those are the algorithms that they will select under the model development. So they'll take the algorithm or the machine learning models, combine with our data, your data, to train the model to ensure that those models are fit for your purpose, right? Have high accuracy so you can predict what happens in the future. And this experiment can take various different iterations. So as part of that, we need a tool to help track that the model performance and how what data we use to train our model. So that's where MLflow really comes in the Databricks ecosystem. Is the MLflow help them track the different parameters or the features that we're using, what model we're using, as well as help us manage which model makes it into production, which one doesn't. One of the capability of the Databricks ecosystem is AutoML, which means is you have a set of model that you run automatically every night or every month. You evaluate them based on the data that you have, and you will pick the best accurate model moving forward. So the MLflow helps with that activity. And finally, of course, we gotta deploy the model for consumption. This could be things that you run within Databricks, within Azure ML, machine learning, or even for things that will that you can build API out of. So you can be called using your custom application if you're building, let's say, a SaaS application as well. So that's kind of the main focus of what the data scientists do. And sometimes you will hear that role got split into two, data scientists and machine learning engineer, MLEs. So they both kind of cover the same spectrum of work. If you have MLEs, they most likely taking care of the back end of the tracking, registry and deployment, where the data scientists will focus more on the experimental piece, or experiment piece there. Okay. Lastly, the third role that we have is a data analyst. So their role, like I mentioned before, is to do with reporting primarily. Bring insights for the business quickly in languages that they understand. So as part of that, they often grab data from the Go layer, kind of the reporting layer that we had earlier in the medallion architecture, and they will build out their report most commonly in Power BI, which is a Microsoft product here. There's different connectors as well. There's also a dashboard builder you can use within Databricks, but the Power BI one is more comprehensive, of course, more fully built out of a solution. Okay, so
a quick question. As you're preparing the data and building the models, is there a good approach to using obfuscated or masked data versus the real production data?
could mask your data. So in a little bit when we go through the demo, there's a way for you to define how your data needs to be masked at a row or column level if we need to. There's also an ability in AI and machine learning, you can generate sample data if you need to. But if you really want to test with your production data, let's say in a pre-prod environment, you can also clone your production data into the pre-prod layer to do the testing. You can make that data read-only. For example, they call it shallow clone, which means you're referring back to the production data set. You're not actually making a new copy of it. Or if you need to, you can do like a deep clone, which is basically you actually creating a new data set. So a quick tip here, Databricks is a comprehensive solution, covers all three of the role in data and AI team. So what they have done is they created something called the Databricks Assistant that allows you to ask questions, kind of like Copilot would in the Microsoft space. And it will help you, writing code. You can help explain certain concepts and terminology within Databricks. Can also help you correct any coding error that you have, similar to the GitHub Copilot, right? If you have that. So it's a great way to accelerate your learning if you're having that tool in your hands, so you don't have to always remember all your syntaxes, you don't have to fumble around. Why is this code complaining to me and yelling at me that it's not working? You can even use it to explain your code as well. So if you have a very complex SQL, for example, you can tell it to explain me what this SQL is doing. So you can do that. And they can do that because they have a concept of your data as well. So you can ask the assistant to say, hey, I'm using this table to join data. Help me make this work. And that's included in all tiers of your Databricks compute tier, so there's no limitations on the cost for you, right? It's kind of built into the platform for everyone to use, which I think it's quite valuable. I actually use it quite a bit, as I'm not the best at remember all the syntax myself. So that kind of wrapped up the different roles and responsibility in Databricks Assistant. So what does it do to make this all work together, right? This is the Databricks Data Intelligence Platform. Starting at the bottom, we have the Delta Lake or the Lakehouse, which you might have heard of before if you're coming from the Microsoft space as well. So they're pretty much one of the same. It allows us to centralize all our data in one place for all your different roles and users and persona to interact with. So this whole concept of the lake house or the data lake is so that all the data is stored in file base so that you can easily query it. And the Delta gives us the management layer that emulates very closely to a database. So you can, when you update it, you don't have to rewrite all your data out, but everything is still interacting at a file level. So with the Delta Lake capability, actually simplifies a lot of the data warehousing challenges that Databricks has, previously before that, as the Delta table or the Delta Lake format acts, like I said, more like a table structure there. The next item up is the Unity catalog, and that's mapped back to our governance or unified governance layers that we talked about previously. In here, you can manage your data, you can add in different metadata to your data so that you can help your other people coming on your project to understand your data much more easily and quicker. All those data also, of course, feed back into the engine or any of the AI assistants that we have. So this way, the better annotation you gave to your data, the well documented your data is, the better the system can help you speed up your insights, essentially. Okay. So on top of that, we have the data intelligence engine. So this is the engine or the compute that power all of the capability that we mentioned earlier in each of the persona. So that's the AI, some of the workflow. You have your machine learning. You have your Databricks SQL in there as well. So by having that, it kind of simplifies your life. You have one kind of shared compute, I guess, if you will, or a compute engine that you can use to run all your various different workloads. Okay. Think lastly there, in Databricks, all of the services that we have are serverless, so you don't have to create or manage your own instance of those compute instances or engines. So it makes it a little bit easier for people to adopt the technology. There's less heavy lifting on the administration side as well. Right. So with that, we'll quickly jump into a demo where we will upload our data into Databricks and start playing with it, right? So we'll take a look on how we can define some of the metadata that we have talked about a little bit earlier. We'll also write some quick SQL query just to make sure the data is loaded correctly. And then later on, we'll do a second demo, which will focus more on the Genie, which we'll cover a bit, can help us talk to our data a little bit more. So with that, we'll swap over to our demo environment. This is the Databricks environment. So if you've logged into Databricks before, this should be pretty familiar to you. On the left, you have all your primary menu, right? On the right, you have your kind of the working area that you have. So for us, we are going to emulate what like a data analyst or the business user will do. We'll upload our spreadsheets data to the environment, and then we'll interact with it that way. So to do that, we'll go under the data engineering, click on the data ingestion, or you can just click on the new button on the top. Either one works. So let's say in this case, I'll click on the new. We'll go add data, and then we can easily just pick the item there to upload our file as a table. Okay. So of course, in this case, our data has to be tabular, or else it's going to be a little bit tricky. It does take JSON format, as you can see in the screen there. So if you have to do some manipulation and have some parent-child relationship, you should be able to handle that as well. Of course, the schema has to be more consistent in that case if you want to use some of those Parquet XML and JSON format. Okay, so for now, I have 3 different data sets: a customer, the invoices, and the invoice line. So for each one, I will kind of drag and drop them into my screen here to upload it. So it's pretty easy for us to upload the data. It supports up to 2 gigabytes of data, I believe it says earlier. So in here, we get to select the different, where we want to store this data. So for me, I created a simple catalog for the demo environment. I'll dump it into the Genie if we have to. So you can already see all the columns of data that you have. If the type of the data that you get assigned is wrong, you can, of course, change it right there on the screen. So that makes it easy for your business users or your data analysts to bring in any ad hoc data that they require, as they can do all the manipulations that they need. Okay, and then as simple as clicking on the create table, your table is being created already here. So it should only take about 10 seconds or so to create. And then after that, we'll quickly talk about some of the metadata component that we can add and help manage this table. Okay, so our table has been created here. As you can see, there's already a lot of AI stuff kind of popping left and right into the screen here. So the first thing is they already have a description that they want you to use for the table. In our case for the demo, I'm just going to accept that. If there's other components you want to clarify, you can feel free to edit that as well. So I'm just going to accept that. Now, that's great. Now our table has a description. How about our columns? Typing in each of the descriptions seems kind of painful, especially for IDs. So Databricks also have AI generate comments that you can add in here. So they generate all the comments. All you have to do is just click yes for each one of them. Okay, takes a second to write. Unfortunately, don't have a accept all button. That's one downside that we have. Now, to your question there, Brent, earlier, we could apply column masking, similar to how SQL has it. You can define your function or your procedure, and then you define what your mask that you want looks like. Some people want their mask to be just stars. Sometimes you want to have certain characters to be in your mask, so you can do that in your mask definitions there. Okay. So that's your customer table pretty much here. I'll quickly kind of go over some of the different items in here. So there's the sample data. You can quickly see what kind of data you have without the need of writing any SQL query. Again, we're just going to ignore this Genie button for a second. We'll come back to that in a bit. There's permissions, so it can help you manage your table, who have access to your table and so forth. It's kind of all baked into one tool, so you don't have to run around writing different SQL query, try to find out the different permissions that each of the people that you might have granted. You can also do that as well if you like, but it's all kind of in nice visual paint that you can see. Okay, so with that, we're going to just quickly do the other two. So in this time, I'll go through the data ingestions path. Again, this brings up the exact same screen, and then we'll drag the next file. So one thing you cannot do, a quick tip is you cannot drag all three files in together because they're trying to combine them into one table at this moment. So when you do that, it wasn't smart enough to know that you actually want three different tables and not one. Okay, so just be mindful of that. Okay. Again, I'm just going to quickly go through them, and I'll quickly apply all the AI results on them as well, just to move things along there. Okay. Some of the stuff that I'm skipping over on the right-hand side, like the delta tables and popularity and things like that, those will be more of a deeper kind of sessions on the data engineering side if we want to go through more in depth on the medallion architecture and all those things. That could be a follow-up sessions in the future as well. Okay. All right. So just one more table, and then we can move to the next kind of part. It's also important to make sure you select the right schema and catalog, or else you might not be able to. Your data might be created in a offside place that you normally wouldn't like to. So those are pretty similar to standard SQL, right? You have your schema, you have your database that you connect to. That's basically what those are meant. Okay. All right. So with that, all of our data is uploaded. Now let's take a look at some of the queries. So as a data analyst, you can, majority of your time, you'll be writing your SQL, right? If you don't have any AI intelligence software to help you. So a SQL editor is kind of your bread and butter, to generate insights for your business. So I have pre-canned a few SQL query here that we can run. Again, we just need to make sure we select the correct catalog or the database as well as the schema, just so you access the correct table. Or not, they will yell at you saying that this is not correct. So run the table, see if I get any error on that. So this query, all it does really is to say, hey, what is the average profit in the Q1 of 2024? It's a pretty straightforward query there. Nothing too, too complex here. Now, I wonder if the, oops, I clicked on the wrong guy here. I wonder if the assistant can tell me what this does. Oh, okay. Okay, let me. So your assistant can say, let's say, how do I create a SQL statement for using averages, right? I mean, for most of us probably know how to do that, but that's just an example how they're able to do. Of course, they retrieve the one I'm on, that I have as an example there, right? So you can even ask it as like, what can this, what does this SQL do exactly why do we need to join? So it clearly explains kind of the relationship of each of the table, how they really work together. So and what does the subquery does, right? Which for some beginner in SQL, they might not quite understand. You can write subqueries as well. So a quick way for you guys for everyone to learn and don't have to memorize all the syntaxes there. So could I just
you could ask it to rewrite it as the modal average or average by month or
probably you would use the assistant inside your SQL query tab instead of the general chat. So that way you can get inline code updates essentially here, right? So you can say, can you get me the sum profit instead of average? So they recommend how you fix the query. In this case, of course they can write the query a lot more elegantly, but the quick fix is really just fixing the sum versus the average there. Again, this is a very simple example that we're trying to illustrate, right? Okay, for now we're going to reject that. So for the next query, it's a little more complicated. We want to retrieve the data by month. So we have Q1 data, so that's January, February, March, and we want to see what kind of profits we have per each of the month. So as you can see here in this query, we're not doing any sum, we're not doing any aggregate, but we can do that directly as a visualizations that we can have. So by clicking that plus button, you can add a visualizations into your query. So you can quickly be able to see your data visualize your data to generate your insights there. So in my case, I want to group it by month. And it tells you in here that not all the data is presented. So just be mindful of that. I do have 3 months worth of data, but they are not able to show that in the screen here. Just want to make sure the data is set up correctly here. I think that's good. So I'm just going to go and hit save there. So there you go. It generates the data there. I need to try to fix that data into, where is that? Where are you? I think it's under scale, categorical, don't sort value, I think. Yeah. So that's basically make the month, it's a category, right? It's not a continuous number that we care about. So yeah, so that's how you would do quick visualizations within Databricks. You don't have to export it into Power BI if you don't need to. If you want, you can actually connect SSMS SQL Server Management Studio to it, so you can run your query that way if you want. But everything is in here, and there's a Databricks Assistant, so maybe it's a better fit for what we want to do in terms of for our data. Now, this is all great. You've got to learn quite a bit of SQL, even though there's Assistant to help you. So what if we don't actually have to do that? Is there a way that we can just speak to our data instead of trying to, for us to write all the query itself? So that's going to be our next kind of short sessions in a little bit. But before I do that, though, just want to see if there's any questions.
Like storage for
that's the Azure storage with a hierarchical namespace, so ADLS Gen 2. Fabric uses the similar concept, but they manage the storage. So if there isn't any questions, we'll jump to the second part. The second part is the Genie. The AI BI Genie is what Databricks call it. So you can essentially just have a chat with your data. You can talk to it similar to what we've seen before, but you can ask a lot more questions based on the data that you want the Genie to have. So in the market, you probably hear a lot about building agents or building agents specifically for your own department or area, right? Not just a general agents. So that's kind of what the Genie does, is you building an agent or very simple agent for the specific data set that you need. You might only want this data to have sales information. You don't want to deal with CRM information, for example. So you'll be creating two different Genie in that case to have segregation of your data. And also, your results will be a lot more accurate because you're not just dumping everything and tell the Genie to go figure it out, which could be quite challenging for the Genie to do. Okay. So to create the Genie here, we will demo that in just a quick second. Just going to cover a few more things in terms of the capability. So the Genie also can create SQL statements for you, which we'll see in a second there. Once you ask us a question, it basically generates a SQL query and it executes the SQL yourself. The data can be returned in terms of a table form that you're seeing in the screen, or it can also be charts as well. So very similar to what you see in the visualizations there. Some of the questions you might ask is you can even ask, what kind of data I have access to? What does it do? To summarizing data like grabbing me the year-to-date sales information. So those are all the good use cases for the Genie. The one limitation of the Genie is it doesn't do chat completions in the AI world. So you cannot really tell them to summarize this data and put it in certain context for me. Kind of like ChatGPT, you see, you can ask a question, it can give you a bunch of new ideas about things that you can do. It doesn't really do that. It stops at data retrieval and data analysis. The screenshot that we'll see here. So you'll see there's, for a demo, we can ask a question. It kind of tells you what its intent to do, right? In the top part here, it's like this analysis will generate the average, and I'll be using certain tables that's coming in. It gives you the raw, I guess, tabular data view, and it allows you to kind of trend, I guess, in this case, your chart you want to do, right? Back over to Databricks. So we can quickly or simply create a Genie using the Genie tab on the left-hand side under the SQL. Again, this is they classify this under the data analyst kind of workload, so that's why it's under the SQL, right? If you have a new business user or new kind of people joining your project, they can automatically ask all of that information themselves. So we go and select the three data set that we have. So remember the catalog and the schema that we used a second ago, and we just select the three tables. And all we have to do is create. So that's all we have to do really, but we are going to give a little more information about this Genie, right? So let's say this is the demo sales Genie. We want to create some kind of a description, try to copy and paste and and the PowerPoint is not happy to me. So I'm just going to quickly type this out. Data for sample invoice data, sample invoice lines data, and sample customers data. I'm just going to keep it short. My description is a little bit longer in my script here, but since copy and pasting isn't quite working, just want to move along. So you can also help the Genie to know what kind of questions you expect it to ask, so they will kind of behave more smartly, I guess, in that case. So you can say which date have we generated the most revenue. It could be a question you will ask. You can also ask other questions like which customer spent the most money, right? So yeah, so those are some of the questions you can have. So I'm just gonna save that so we can see. So as you can see, once we save it, all the sample questions and notes will show up on the left-hand side there. In the context here, we can see the three tables. Of course, the more tables you have, the more will show up. You can also remove them. There's also capability for you to provide different instructions. If you want to always return them in a tabular formats, for example, you can always define everything in here, just like ChatGPT you could, right? You can tell it exactly how you want your data to respond. And you can also see all the queries that you have that you can provide as well to help train the Genie a little bit more smart if there's a little bit of quirks that you need. For example, like a category table that you always want to apply to return the category. You don't want to tell it every time. You would be providing that in the instructions and maybe even in the sample SQL statements as well. Okay. In here, maybe we'll, acting as a brand new user, right? I just joined the company or just a project. I want to understand what our data does, right? So you can just select explain what the data set we have and what do they do. So automatically reads all of the metadata that we provided earlier in the table, and it tells you that the customer table have the customer data and how does the invoices and the invoice line kind of related to each other. Okay.
How does it know that it's customer ID and invoice ID? It's looking at the structure or the other queries you've defined?
It's looking at the column description that we provided. Okay. They both says invoice ID and customer ID on them, so they know that they should be related. Now, in the cases where they're not the same, then you have to make sure your description matches, like explain what that is, right? So it's very important that in the first step that we did in our catalog, when we're cataloging our data, putting the different columns information, it's very important that we make sure our comments here is aligned to what we actually want to take place, right? Let's say if you have a category, you didn't provide a category table, you might say in here, this one represents a cat, two represents a dog, that kind of things you might need to provide.
So there's no explicit foreign keys, but it's able to apply foreign keys based on the description.
I didn't set up any foreign keys because they're from CSV files, but you could set up foreign keys as part of your table build-out process if you want, and that would make the system understand the relationship a lot better, more robust.
More fragile data errors.
Yeah. You have to do more work up front, right? So in a formal data engineering process, you would define all those foreign keys as part of your data processing, as part of your integrity checks as well. So for the Genie here, it's going to go back here. Yeah, so we can always go back to the history and we can see the discussion that we had, exactly like ChatGPT that you have seen before, or Copilot yourself, right? Some of the questions you can ask is, we can say in February 2024, how much revenue do we generate, right? So maybe you care about our revenue, right? You're a sales manager, you try to see what we're making in February, so that the Genie will go and gather that information for you. So as we talked about earlier, just like in our screenshot, it tells you what, it try to elaborate on what you're trying to do. In this case, it give a very lengthy description, tells you what table you're going to be interacting with, just to make sure they're doing the right thing. And if you want to see the SQL quote, it's right here, right below it. You don't have to lift a finger to write any of that. Now, it is important that you give feedback to your Genie. It's no different than ChatGPT would. If it's doing the right thing, let them know it's doing the right thing. That will help the next person down the line when they start creating or utilizing the Genie to get the results. So the Genie can build some confidence in terms of what needs to take place, right? It also knows how to add additional information to the data. So we can, start with in 2024 Q1, which customer has made the most purchase. I want the customer name and the contact person name. So we'll go and do that as well. And how long this thing, it depends on a few things, like how much compute you have, and as well as how many people are using it, of course. So for us, our data set is relatively small, so it's returned pretty quickly with a small a warehouse compute engine. But if you have a lot of data, right, in the terabytes, it might take a little bit longer to return. Depends on your search query here. So it tells you the name and then the contact person, but it doesn't really help you if you don't know how much sales it was made, right? So you can ask it to include how much they spent. And I'm a terrible speller, as you can see. The customer provides the name. So it interpreted what I said instead they understood that it was include, which is a good thing here. Okay. Yeah, so maybe we'll create one more example here just to round out the discussions. So this Tailspin Rothville PA customer, I want to see their monthly spent for Q1 2024. So in this case, they will return the result. Now, what we really want is to chart that, right? Maybe you're trying to build a report for the executive committee, for your manager. They don't want to just see the number. So when this return, we'll ask a follow-up question for it to create a chart. Again, if you want chart to be generated kind of on the fly, you can also give it in the instructions so they could do that. Okay. In this case, they did generate the chart on the fly, but it doesn't always the case. So if the chart that you're not loving the chart, like right now I'm not loving this chart, I would make it into, let's say, a bar chart, right? You can configure this to be, okay, that seems funny here. Hold on. So I'm having a hard time seeing the seeing the screen there. Okay, I'm not liking how the month is being interpreted. Let's see if I can fix that. Oh, there we go. And total purchase, and then the color. So now your chart is a little bit better. You didn't have to rebuild anything. You just had to reconfigure your chart to a way that you like. Now, like I mentioned before, can you summarize this result? And they will try to get the context, but it doesn't have that chat completion capability to kind of explain that, tell you the story about how Q1 was doing better than Q3, you know, that you would get in ChatGPT. Okay.
By the same token, it's not going to hallucinate that this sales campaign that never existed.
Right, exactly. So because it doesn't have that context capability, it's all based on the data that you give. So it's being put in that little bubble, I guess, if you will.
It doesn't generate misleading things.
Not that I have seen, but again, any other AI tool, the warning is make sure you validate your results. I think that's a pretty safe bet, but I haven't seen any. Like I play with it quite a bit in various training sessions, and myself, I haven't seen any issues. So to kind of wrap it up, so the Databricks Unified Data Intelligence Platform brings the data engineers, data scientists, data analysts, even the business users together into one collaborative environment. Everyone can collaborate using either Python notebook, preferred language that they use, like SQL or Scala if you want to use them, or you can even go with the traditional SQL routes, as you can see, to produce quick visualization as well. The Databricks Assistant and the AI BI Genie kind of lowers the barrier of entry for you to learn this technology. It can help you not only learn, but build and explore your data with power of AI. With a strong foundation with the unified data, i.e. the Delta Lake, as well as the unified governance, the Unity catalog, it enable you to have trusted and governed data for your data assets, which a lot of companies are struggling with, to have data assets that can be trusted, that has been vetted by the business and IT. The data intelligence engine extends the Databricks into generative AI, not just Spark engine. As I mentioned before, you can see some of the code that I have in the GitHub repo. and as well as the slide deck that you see here. Unfortunately, Genie, you cannot export it into the repo, so you will have to go through the video in order to retrieve that information. Before we go to the last Q&A, just want to bring up there is a training happening right now in both the Microsoft and the Databricks environment. Microsoft, they're doing the AI Skill Fest. You can get free training for Fabric, all the AI services that's in Azure. You can also submit a chance to win a free certification voucher as well. And if you're interested in learning more about Databricks, there's a virtual learning festival going on until the end of the month. There's a whole bunch of courses that you can go log in and learn for free. And you will get a 50% voucher, I believe, as well. So if you're interested in both, feel free to register for them. We'll go jump right into the Q&A, I guess.
Thank you. So as everybody's uploading their spreadsheets, how do you keep it from just being a nasty morass spread mart of too many things?
That's a good question. Generally, the data engineer will kind of facilitate that process. This is more for a data analyst that want to add some additional data in that you wouldn't normally have. And that is controlled through the catalog that you saw earlier. So what database does the data analyst have access to versus what the data engineering team have access to. So you will kind of segregate that to build what the trusted data would be coming from the enterprise data layer, where anything that are being used by the data analyst, they kind of have to take ownership, and the business have to take ownership of that. One of the data lineage that will show where is the data coming from. Is it coming from an authoritative source like a database or something that's managed by a data team, or is it coming from just someone decide to export the data and make a bunch of changes and uploading it again? So you can kind of tell. A lot of data team actually struggles with that. As business building their own report, they kind of have their own twist of the data, and you don't really know. You spend hours trying to investigate what's wrong. Why is it not rolling up to what executive sees, right? So that's the aspect there. And we'll cover that maybe in a different sessions, how we have deal with the lineage as more of a data engineer activity, I think, can give us a lot more detail around that.
Is evaluation a big thing, like in terms of testing out if it's accurate or not? Or
The data accuracy, or you more along the machine learning side?
machine learning?
Yeah, so that would be part of the ML flow. I believe Databricks created ML flow, if I'm not mistaken. So the evaluation accuracy is all part of the ML flow evaluation and the training that we went over at the beginning. A lot of people do that maybe with the ML, auto ML as well, if you have different model that you want to test out. But yeah, the ML flow capture quite a bit of the tracking history, what data set was used, as well as what are the scores for each of the training versus testing data sets. Yeah.
Do you notice any common challenges with data analysts using this?
I think a lot of data analysts, and they're used to their own tool, I guess. That's a common challenge that they see. As the organization kind of mature and everybody works using the same tool, they'll have more buy-in in terms of using that tool yourself.
And we have a question online from Sylvia.
Sure.
Sylvia, go ahead.
Hi, thanks for the valuable introduction about the Databricks. And I'm curious about how flexible the Genie could be. Could we customize the Genie for our business purpose, like adding some domain knowledge into it? And do you see it's valuable?
I think it depends on the level of expertise in the analyst, right? If they're new or like a new business user, then they will find that tremendously easy. Like they don't have to wait for someone to answer their questions. They can just go ahead and do it themselves. They don't need to know SQL even, right? But someone like an expert, you try to write 6 different subqueries joined together and throw in a whole bunch of different conditions, it might not do as well, as you try to have a conversation with the data, right? So yeah, just be mindful about that.
Okay, thank you. And how do you think about your experience to use the Genie with doing prediction job, like doing prediction in data analysis?
That's a good question. I don't think Genie does predictions other than the out-of-the-box AI functions. Like if you try to train a custom model, I don't know if you can do that. I actually have never tested that before, which is actually a great question. I should try that.
Okay, thank you.
Can you manage the Genie? Like if you have a Genie that's, let's say I train the Genie and my ideas are all crazy and the next person comes in and say, we don't want anything that that Brent's polluted this Genie. He's making phrases. We want a fresh new Genie. Can you manage the Genie? Like,
There is a monitoring component of the Genie that you could tweak the Genie a bit, right? Which is why all the feedback is so important here. If Brent start rating good on things that are wrong, we can definitely intervene in that matter. You can also train your Genie using benchmark tool, which you basically call it a single shot training. You give it a question, you know the response. So you want the format of the response, you know how you want to return. So that's how you would evaluate your accuracy of the Genie as well if you want. Now, of course, that the whole, going down really deep into how the Genie would work in that case, as what we did was just very straightforward, right? You can run that on a schedule, probably can schedule this activity to run as well in that. So yeah. Do a lot more.
The whole business of supplying pre-trained Genies for an industry.
Databricks has done is they make Genie available to be accessed to the API. It's a preview item. You can integrate that with Teams if you want, or with Slack. So you don't even need to give user access directly to this. They can have a robot that you can talk to it in Teams. It's like, tell me something more about the sales information, right? So that allow more people to interact with the Genie without needing them to come into this environment as well.
Thank you, Wilson. And stay tuned for events in May and June. Thank you again to Lynn and Microsoft for hosting us here.
Right.
Take care, all.